Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, and a very big and warm welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is Books, Blogs, and Poetry. And I'm super excited to welcome back someone who's been here before. She is doing amazing things in the world. She has her own show. Before we bring her out, let's welcome the star of this show. It's DIANN FLOYD BOEHM, who's traveling somewhere in the country of the United States of America. DIANN, welcome.
Hello from Virginia.
It's hard to keep an idea as to where you are. You're always on the go, but that's what makes you so incredible, because you have connections and friends all over the world, DIANN.
Thanks. I feel very blessed that I get to travel, but this was all about family. So, and Memorial Weekend and Monday, of course, and remembering those who give us the freedom that we have in our beautiful country, right?
Absolutely. Amen to that for sure. DIANN, you are the creator of this show and you are doing other shows with us. What is it that keeps you inspired and motivated to continue hosting shows?
Oh, that one's easy. So everybody, I feel so blessed, and Dr. Jacalyn did not pay me to say this, but I feel so blessed to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. Dr. Jacalyn's shows are all about inspiring you to learn about things, self-care, to learn about businesses. And that keeps me motivated, because I not only co-host several shows, but I watch a lot of the shows because I am always learning. So being part of your team, Dr. Jacalyn, is a true blessing, and I get a lot of energy from it. Because if I didn't when I was traveling, I would be like on vacation all the time. So thank you for letting me travel and be on your show.
Thank you so much, DIANN. I appreciate that. And if you can share with our audience any projects that you currently have going on that you can talk about.
Sure, I'd be happy to, but you are the first USA Global TV Radio to hear that on Friday evening, I received an email from the Mom's Choice Awards, and my two latest children's books, A Time to Fly and Charlie and the Tire Swing, How It Began, just was approved by the Mom Choice Awards. And this is huge. They do not approve all children's books. I'm extremely proud of that, Dr. Jacalyn.
Oh, congratulations, DIANN. I give you a standing ovation.
Thanks. I've been waiting for a year to find out. So.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. That's amazing. Well, you certainly deserve it. You are so creative and you are so much of a heart-centric person. And I just appreciate everything that you do. And thank you for your friendship.
Ditto for you.
Well, we are bringing someone back on the show who I mentioned before. We've interviewed on this show, and I think one or two others, I'm not really sure, but she has so much incredible content, and she has her own platform, as I mentioned. She's joining us today. Her name is Randi-Lee Bowslaugh, and she is a mental health advocate. She's also an author and host of Write or Die Show. Let's welcome her back to the program. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So nice to have you back. Thank you for taking the time to join us again.
Thanks for having me again.
It's always so much fun. We always have a great conversation wherever it is the conversation goes. So I know that you were really passionate about helping people and expressing what you've been through in your own life with mental health challenges. What is it that you'd like the audience to know between the connection of how you felt and where you've been to where you are today?
It does get better, or rather it can get better. It doesn't always, but it can, with a heck of a lot of hard work, actually, because I feel like people say that all the time. Oh, it can get better, or it does get better. But I think we gloss over the fact that it takes a lot of hard work to get there. And so I want people to know it is hard work, but it is worth that hard work.
Thank you so much, Randi-Lee. A follow-up question to that, because this comes up all the time. Diane was talking about education. For some reason, whatever it is that we want to change in our life, we think that we should be able to change it very quickly with the magic wand or a few prayers, or maybe we change something for an hour. But yet we've been where we are for a period of time, and it takes, first of all, the realization of where are we and where is it that we want to go. So where were you and where did you want to go?
Ooh, where was I? I was in a very dark place, in a place where I just didn't want to be here anymore. So the darkest place you could imagine. And where I wanted to be, I mean, at that time, obviously, was just not here. But where I really wanted to be was in a place where I could be enjoying life, where I could be doing what I wanted to do and making a difference. Now, from where I was to where I wanted to be, I mean, I'm still kind of working on that. I'm a lot closer now. But it took years of therapy, years of looking at myself in the mirror, years of looking at my history, where I came from, how I was raised, and working through a lot of trauma.
Well, thanks as always for being so candid and transparent. And we've discussed this, then I'll go over to Diane. But when you have to relive things again over and over to help other people, sometimes at the end of the day, when you're doing that, you have to say, whoa, I need a timeout. I know I feel that way. What about you?
Yeah, it can be pretty exhausting. Like last night, I fell asleep so early, and this morning I didn't wake up until almost 8, and only because my kid woke me up, I totally could have slept longer. So there are definitely times when I get so exhausted, and that's when it's okay, I need to take time for me, because as much as I love, speaking out, helping everybody, I have to take care of me as well, or I can't keep doing what I'm doing.
There it is, the golden rule. Take care of yourself first. Thank you.
Absolutely. I really appreciate everything you said so far. Two things come to mind. One is young kids today, there's so much stuff on social media that can guide them into the wrong direction. And I was just listening to some senators trying to see how we could tackle to protect kids and their mental health. And the other thing that came to mind as you were speaking was that how it does take years, and that we can come from the most wonderful family. I know I'm very blessed because I had such a beautiful childhood, but still you have layerings that happen, like your brother calls you stupid and you start believing it, that seems so silly, but it still can hurt, right? And I think when we look at exercise and we want to get in shape and so forth, we realize it took us, 2 years of eating, those hamburgers to get where we are, right? And so if we looked at, okay, this is where I am now, but this is where I would like to be. What do you think if we looked at it from, it's a layer, okay, we're just going to take this little layer and celebrate, and then this little layer and celebrate. Would that make it a little bit easier for people?
Oh, yeah. You have to celebrate all the small victories. And actually, that's, I just was going to therapy for PTSD stuff specifically in the last few months. And that's how that therapy worked. So we had like a little workbook we had and homework, which was exhausting all on its own. But each week built on something from the week before. So it was like what you're saying, where it was peeling back one layer at a time. And every time I would go in, and my therapist would say, "Thank you so much for doing this hard work." And the first couple weeks I was like, well, obviously I'm paying you money to be here. Obviously I'm going to do it. But then it started, then I started realizing it is hard work. I should be proud of the fact that I am doing it. I'm still going back and I'm still working through it. And eventually it kind of stuck. Like you said, when people repeat things over and over, it can stick. And that was a good stick.
Yes,
Beautiful.
absolutely. Randi-Lee, again, I love how you're just open that you're going to therapy, you've been going. I think that's so important to inspire other people. We've interviewed people here who have talked about going to therapy and they didn't feel a connection with the therapist. So they just said, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. And it is daunting finding the person that you really have a connection with. What has been your experience? Did you find one person and that's the person you've been with?
Yeah, I was really lucky because the first therapist that I found for me worked really well. Now my kid, he's also went to therapy over the years, and we've had some that have not connected so well. And so I do understand how that can work, and it can be frustrating and make you want to just quit and give up. But luckily my son, he said, no, let's find a different one. So just find a different one. You're not going to connect with everybody.
And isn't it also a matter of you as the client interviewing them also to see if it's a good fit?
Exactly. That is more what it is, I would say, because they're going to have relatively the same credentials, right? Like, so if you're going to find a psychologist, they're all going to have their, doctorate in psychology. So they have the base same knowledge, but their personalities are going to be different. So think of it as when you go to work, do you get along with every single coworker you have? Because if you do, you've got a great job. Because normally they're right. Normally there's at least one or two. You maybe don't dislike them, but you just don't connect, right? And so with therapy, it's the same kind of thing. You're going in, they're going to have the qualifications, but that doesn't mean that they're going to connect with you on a personal level. And that's really what you need in order to open up about these things about your life. Like, you need to feel comfortable.
So true. I remember I went to marriage counseling. I think we saw 4 different people, but this one person was always taking off her shoes and playing with her feet.
She had a foot fetish.
I know. I thought to myself, I think this person needs some work as well. So it's okay to say this isn't working for me. And I think that's how it is in life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I would just want to throw in there that when tell me if I'm right or wrong, but it seems to me that you need to realize that when you go to a therapist, that they're not there to agree with you for everything, right?
Yeah.
So maybe some people are like, I'm out of here because you're not agreeing with me. What do you tell people like that?
Why are you going to therapy if you're just looking for somebody to agree with you?
There you go.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I have
really
while you're still on Spotlight, Randi-Lee, just for this topic, and we'll move on. So for people who are thinking, oh, I have a coach, or I have a mentor, I have a therapist, what are the areas that you think that are different in the value that these people bring?
So a coach is going to be different than, say, a therapist. And there's also different levels of therapists. There's, counselors who went to school for social work, ones that actually are psychologists, ones that are psychiatrists. So there is a wide range of different types of help out there. And recognizing which type you need is going to be the first step, because not everybody needs the hardcore therapy, right? Going every week and working diligently on a very specific aspect. Some people need guidance, and guidance might be more in the form of a coach, especially if it's like guidance with, say, your business. There's lots of business coaches out there that kind of just guide you. So figure out what you need, and then that's how you can figure out what fit you're going to have.
Excellent. Thank you. And you've shared with us before about your journey and about a family member and the inspiration and the need that you felt to share a story. Can you talk a little bit about that without me giving it away?
Sure. So I'm going to assume you're talking about my newest book, which is Goodbye Too Soon, which just recently came out on the 20th this month. And so that is about my brother. He died by a drug overdose 2 years ago. And one of the things that kept going through my mind when I found out he had died was his life can't mean nothing. And so that was sort of the inspiration to then share his story and share it in a way that it speaks to other families that have somebody that they love who has an addiction, so that it's not saying that the person is bad, but it's saying, you know, as a family member, I may need to distance myself. I have to put in boundaries. And it goes into how we can love them, but still kind of put things in place that protect us, because it can be very, very hard on the people who love them to be close with them still while they're in active addiction.
Congratulations on that. I know we talked about it before. I'm so happy for you. And again, it has to be, you're ecstatic. And at the same time, it has to be painful going back and revisiting it.
Oh, for sure. When the first draft that I wrote, I was all tears almost the whole time. It was hard. Actually, one of the chapters is the funeral itself. And because it was during COVID, the funeral was live streamed. So I actually went back and watched it again so that I could make sure that I had all the notes right. Because when I lived it, it was so emotional that, you know, I didn't remember everything. And watching it again, there was tears, but I could pause it, take a moment, and then keep going.
How was your memory of the events and what you've written?
They were pretty much bang on. I just couldn't remember specific wording, and I wanted to get some of that right.
Yeah. Well done. Well done.
That is so powerful. And I'm one of these believers that your brother's spirit took all of that in. And I'm sure he thanked you in so many ways while you were sleeping.
Thank you. As long as you're not still stealing my chocolate.
Yeah, I'd be upset about that too.
Oh yeah, we'd get those like advent calendars for Christmas, and you know, you eat a chocolate a day. I'd go to eat one and they'd all be gone.
I had a brother like that.
Right? Ugh.
Randi-Lee, I want to touch on something it's a serious subject, but it's in alignment with what you just shared, is when you have to take a step back, you have to set boundaries. And I know people who have children who have gone down a path that is not in their own best interest, and they try and they try, and at some point they're literally ripped in half because they're being told by therapists or whomever, you've got to just let them go, or you've got to do XYZ. And I'm not a parent, but as a parent, how is that possibly different than when it's an adult?
Whew, that is a tricky one. So do you mean then, like, when you say child, like an actual under 18 child?
Yes.
Yeah. So the best way I can describe that, because I always like to speak from personal experience. So my kid, he has autism, and he was having a lot of violent meltdowns about the age of 8, and they continued on. And so it was not safe for him. It wasn't safe for anyone else, because they were very violent, and we couldn't figure out what the trigger was at the time. So eventually we had to get him into a treatment facility where he was there for 3 months. And it was so heartbreaking having to make that decision to say, okay, you're going to go and live 2 hours away. Well, I'm sitting at home. I have no idea what you're doing. And so it's heart-wrenching, but eventually you have to make that decision because it's the best decision for your kid and for yourself, because you have to keep everybody safe. For us, it worked out super well. He's doing amazingly now. He's 16. He's got his beginner's driver's license. He's doing fantastic. But if it wasn't for that period of time where we had to say, we need help, we are at our wits' end, we can't keep doing this, who knows where he would be right now.
Well, I'm so happy for the fact that he's doing really well. And again, that must have taken incredible strength even to have the conversations, let alone take action.
Yeah, that first couple weeks, so he would live there. We'd drop him off Sunday, and then we'd pick him up on Friday. He would come home for the weekends. And the first couple weeks where we had to bring him back were so hard. He would be screaming and crying and saying, I don't want to be there, which was very difficult because the treatment facility also has, I can't remember how they worded it, but if the kid doesn't want to be there, they can't keep them there. And so it was a matter of also convincing him that it's going to help him. So don't just say, I don't want to be there. Let's give it a chance. And actually, after those first few weeks, he was beginning to enjoy himself a little bit because he met some of the other kids on the ward, became friends, and they had video games to play and craft rooms, and they had stuff to do. It wasn't like a prison, but I think it was more the idea of having to go away for him was very hard. So, it's hard for the parents, but it's definitely hard for the kids too.
And
you
again,
are a beautiful
so
parent.
brave.
Yeah,
Yes.
So great. A beautiful parent. It's hard enough to tell a kid, you are going to do this, and that child understand. But when you bring autism, that layering into it, there's other things that's going on as well. And it's easy as a parent, I think, to just say, okay, you don't want to be there, fine, just come home. I miss you anyway, right?
Yeah,
And
I definitely know some parents who did that.
So I'm sure there were a lot of heartaches and tears you yourself went through, but yay for you, because you and your husband make sure you went all the way. That was not easy.
Yeah, it was. And some of the times when we'd have to drive up, I remember the one time my mom was coming up with me, and she had left work early even so that we could get there a little bit earlier. And it was a major snowstorm. It ended up taking us like 4 hours, and normally it only takes about 2. And so we ended up not even getting there in time to do the bedtime routine, which is what we were trying to do. It was just exhausting. There was so many accidents on the highway going up, but it, like you said, it was definitely worth it. But there were some days that I'm like, oh my goodness, I cannot make this drive one more time.
Yeah.
Well, you've come full circle, and it's exciting for where you are today. Not only do you have a book, you have some other things that you can offer people as well. And I always love to hear what business owners are doing, and also authors as they expand their reach and expand their brand. So tell us about this package that you have, and how was your journey getting it together and making it available?
Sure. So I just recently introduced book boxes. So the first one is now available. The first one's now available. It's a self-care book box. So it comes with this cute little cup, sip, read, repeat. It has an actual affirmation journal, one of my nonfiction books about mental health, signed copy, of course, a cute little bookmark that's custom made by this girl that I know, fancy pen, because I mean, how do you write in your journal without a fancy pen? And so it was interesting coming up with that, because it's all about TikTok. And so I follow different authors on TikTok, and there's one in particular. She had started promoting book boxes. Like, this is so cool. And this was quite a few months ago that I saw. I'm like, that's really cool. And then once my new book came out, and I kind of went, oh, what am I going to do next? And I have some other books in the works, of course, but what can I do now? And so I was like, I want to do a book box. And of course, finding the right theme was a big part. And because I love talking about mental health, it just made sense to do it as a self-care one. Now I have other ideas, make one for autism, make one for, of course, Halloween. I love Halloween. So there's different things definitely coming.
Yay, you. So what do you want people to take away from the fact that you have these book boxes available for them?
They make great gifts. Because of the theme of it too, being a self-care book box. If you know somebody that maybe they're not quite ready for therapy, because we've talked so much about therapy this episode, sometimes you're not ready for it. So having that initial kind of self-care step can be really helpful. And I feel like self-care is a word that is thrown around a whole bunch, but really, if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be any good as a parent. You're not going to be any good as a worker, as a spouse, whatever. So that's why I really wanted to push the concept of self-care and the affirmation journal. It's for a whole month. And so every day there's a different affirmation that you can journal about. Because again, if you just say, here, start journaling, what am I journaling about? It can be like very hard to get that going. So this is sort of that jump start for people to start looking at themselves, start trying to make it about themselves for, 5-10 minutes of the day. Just that little bit that they can say, okay, right now I need to focus on me. So that's the hope for this box.
Excellent. And I think also people have to accept the fact that we can't be everything for everyone. And if you are in a position where you're taking care of someone or you're responsible for someone, there's that guilt factor that comes in that, oh, if I do something for 10 minutes, if I look away, something might happen. And what they don't realize is that if something happens to them, what's going to happen to the other person?
That is such a good point. Like, so when we were deciding to put our son into the treatment place, that was such a big part of it. I'm like, but how am I supposed to not be there all the time? Like that, I felt kind of guilty because during that time, then I had a chance to breathe and actually focus on myself. And leading up to that time when he finally was able to go, once he got up on the wait list, that was so he went in September. The summer, that's when I had cancer and I couldn't focus on me at all, or I didn't feel like I could focus on me at all. Let's say it that way, because there was so much going on with him. So, I'm going to these doctor's appointments and I am having surgery and the doctors are, of course, saying you need to take care of yourself. You need to do that. And every time I would go to one of these appointments, you have to fill out this quick little survey, really about your mental health for dealing with your cancer. And, every time was pretty much feeling bad because I wasn't focused on what I needed to do. I was focused on what he needed all the time, 24/7.
Wow, very good points. On your self-care book boxes, are they geared towards adults or can kids use them as well?
I would say teens and above is probably more what it's geared towards, only because the book that is in it, now the journal part, the pen, the cup, anybody can really use them. But I would say the book that is in there, it's going to be Embracing Me, which came out 2022. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. Anyways, it's recent, but it is about my struggle with depression and really focusing on the things that we've talked about. Therapy. We haven't really touched on medication, but if you need it, you need it. Forgiveness for yourself, all of those things. And there is a self-care chapter in there as well, which is why I chose that book specifically to go in there. So because of that, it's not really a children's book, but all the other parts a child would be fine with, because it's just the affirmation journal is just like an affirmation and then some lined paper.
Great, thank you.
Randi-Lee, I want to talk a little bit about when you're on the other side of the mic and you're the one asking the questions. What's that experience been like with your Write or Die show?
I love it. It is so much fun. I mean, you guys know it's so great to meet people from all over the world. I've had people from like Australia, India, lots from the States. So all over, and it's so much fun to be able to connect with these different people and hear their stories. So Write or Die show, it's other authors, but they're sharing their personal journey with mental health. And it's so interesting to hear what, especially from places that are far away from me on the other side of the world, what they're doing for their self-care or coping strategies. Some are very similar to what we're doing here, but some I had never really thought about before. So it's kind of cool.
That is really cool. And have you ever been surprised by answers you've gotten from someone you were interviewing?
Definitely have. You're Don't ask me what they were off the top of my head. But I have those moments of where I go, what? Seriously? And they're very surprising moments, but after doing, like, I think we're almost at 150 episodes, so specifics I can't remember, but I remember being very shocked by certain people.
Well, I know we've had a number of people who've been on this platform who were also in your platform, and they had a really good experience.
Awesome. Oh, that's so good to hear.
I think that's what it's all about, sharing and caring and giving people as many places as possible to share their story with people. What do you think?
Definitely. And that's why I do it. And that's why I love when I find out people that have been on my show have also been on yours or other people's. And it's kind of cool too when I go on a show for the first time as a guest and they're like, oh, has somebody mentioned your show to me before? I'm like, oh, that's so exciting.
Well, it's a cool name as well, Write or Die.
I wish I could take credit for it, but I definitely can't. My best friend, she actually came up with the name.
Well, kudos to her.
Yeah.
She's pretty awesome.
So we have just under 10 minutes that are left, and I want to make sure that we touch on any subjects that you want people to hear about. So where else would you like to go with our conversation today?
So I think we've hit on most of the big stuff, which, mental health is the biggest one that I love talking about. So I think the only thing that we haven't really mentioned is what to do if you're the person that doesn't have the mental illness, but you want to be sensitive to them and helpful, but you got no idea what to do. So my best advice for anybody listening who's in that position is literally just be there. You don't have to say anything. You just have to be available to listen without judgment, which sounds easy, but for some people it's not.
Exactly. And I just want to add on to that. I totally appreciate that. Also, without providing solutions. Oh, I know what you need, Randi-Lee. You should do this, or this. And the person's thinking, I just wanted you to listen to me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Sometimes it's hard to be a skillful listener, especially if you have the personality that you're used to fixing everything and you think only you have the best ideas in the world.
Yeah. And I know a few people like that. And I'm just like, I don't need your advice. I just need you to listen. And actually, so one of the questions that I like to ask people on my show at the very end, it's a little bit tailored to our specific discussion, but the generalness of is, what would you tell somebody in the position that you were now? And at the beginning, I used to say, what advice do you have? I don't say that anymore because I always say don't give advice because people don't really want advice. So I always go, what wisdom do you have to share with the audience? Because I mean, if somebody's listening to a podcast, then they're obviously listening for little nuggets of wisdom. So I started saying it that way instead, because it's not advice. It's just, hey, this is what I've tried. It worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that as well. I think also sometimes people feel helpless. I know I feel like that. If you really care about someone and they're sharing something with you and you know that they're in pain and you just want them to be better and you just want to fix it so that they don't have to suffer. Yet we're all walking our own path on the journey that we're meant to go on.
Yeah, that is probably the hardest thing, especially, I mean, we've talked about being a parent, and that is one of the hardest things to do, but you can't fix the problem for them. All you can be is there for them. So if they ask you for your piece of wisdom, go ahead and share it. But if they're not asking, it means that they don't want it. What you could do, hey, I listened to this podcast just in case you think it's interesting, right? And that could just be the way that you're trying to be helpful and there for them, but you're not pushing them. Other things is, if they're talking about wanting to go to therapy, I'll drive you if you need me to, right? And just kind of leave it open. Some people, open is not always the best, but there is never one right answer for everyone. For me personally, when I'm having a depressed time, my favorite thing for people to say to me is just, that sucks. And I mean, my friend is the same way. She just wants somebody to listen and be like, wow, that really does suck. No advice, no nothing else. Just, I hear what you're saying. I understand it's not good. I'm here. And that's really all we need sometimes, is just being here for that person.
Exactly. Making them feel safe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Another scenario that I just want to talk about briefly is when you give someone advice, because this has happened to me, and then the person doesn't take it, then you're kind of like, oh, I don't think I should contact them again. Right? Like, I should stay away until they reach out to me. What do we do in those situations, Randi-Lee?
So that again can be tricky, because it's like, did I say something to offend you? Did you hate the fact I gave you advice? I would say sometimes when we're depressed, and again, speaking only from personal experience, we forget people exist. I know that sounds really weird, but it is easy to get so stuck in your own head and so stuck in your own depression or anxiety, whatever it is, that you forget other people exist, and you forget that reaching out is okay. So sometimes have it, and me and my friends will do this every once in a while. If I haven't heard from the person, actually I just did this to my aunt this morning, like, I haven't heard from you in a while. Hi. That's it. Like, I just feel like I haven't talked to you in a while. Hi. Just letting the person know that you're still there. Again, it's that being here for them, the being there for them thing. Letting them know that you're still there, you still care about them, but not being pushy, especially if you did just give them advice they didn't take and you're like, oh, what happened? Just being like, hey, hope you're okay. That's it.
I like that.
Nice and simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes we like to overcomplicate things when we really don't need to. Keeping things simple is often the best way to go.
I love this. Wisdom and simple. Sorry, Dr. Jacalyn.
No, I'd love to have both of you weigh in on this one. Here's another one. We throw this around so often. Hi, how are you? And sometimes somebody actually starts to tell you how they are. You're like, you're what? I don't have time. Just, what do we do in that case when it's really inauthentic?
It's so funny you say that. One of the very first TikToks that I made, this is going, when I first joined TikTok way back when, and I made a TikTok about, don't ask somebody how they are if you're not willing to hear the answer. And as the person being asked that question, tell them the truth, right? If they're asking, tell them the truth. Now, that can get really sticky because, like you said, especially in North America, the hi, how are you? It just goes together, even though we don't really mean how are you. It just sort of is our greeting now, which we need to change that. If you don't want to hear how somebody says, don't ask them. But if somebody is going to ask you, I feel like telling them the truth. Now, you don't have to go in super depth. So I used to, when I had first made that TikTok a few years ago, I started doing that in my life. And so I'd go to work, and one of my coworkers would say, oh, hey, how are you? I'd be like, do you want to know? That's how I first said it. And that way I gave them the chance to not hear the answer, knowing that maybe they didn't really want it. And then if they said, no, I want to know, I'd be like, I'm having a crap day. If they wanted me to elaborate, I would, but it doesn't have to be a great big elaboration. But don't be like, oh, I'm fine, and in your head you're like crying. That's no good. That's not helping anybody.
So true. So true. Diane, what would you like to add to that?
I was just thinking about how you said we just go together. Hi, how are you? And I actually a while back realized when you're at the checkout counter at the grocery store and they go hi and you're like hi, yeah, and I don't say how are you anymore. I'll say I hope you're having a really good great day or whatever. And some of them will say, because they're checking things out, right, not really. And I'll go, well, I hope it gets better, or somebody, I'll get myself and I accidentally do say, hi, how are you? And they'll go, well, this happened. And I said, well, so now my big thing is just remember, we're already blessed because we have air in our lungs. And the day could be a lot worse. And they're like so taken aback that they're like, oh, I'm going to start remembering that.
I like that.
Yeah, that's really good, Diane. Randi-Lee, I would love to close out with you showing your book and having you read something from it, if you would.
Yeah, let me grab it. It's just behind me.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
This will be fun.
Okay, so that's what it looks like. And because it's called Books, Blogs, and Poetry Show, I will read a couple the poem I wrote. Let me find the page. There you go. So one of my biggest coping strategies is writing poetry. So when my brother first died, I wrote a few poems. So I did put them in the book. So there are three of them. They're super, super quick. So I'll read those. The first one, it's called Gone. Now you're gone. Wrong. Time to say goodbye. Why? You had to go. No. Next one, it's called I Tried. I tried. I tried and I cried. I tried and I cried and I lost. You lost. You lost and it cost. You lost and it cost and it's unspoken. Left unspoken. Left unspoken and we're broken. And then the last one here, it's called Before. We used to play together. We used to laugh together. We used to joke together. No longer together.
Wow, I get chills on that. Very powerful.
Those are my exact words I was thinking. Look, I already have it here. It made me think about, two brothers of mine passed due to illnesses, but still gone. I mean, all of that reaches anyone who has a loved one in heaven, you know?
Yeah, a few of the reviews that have come in have definitely said have some Kleenex.
Yeah.
Well, we're smiling with joy for having you here and joining us today. We do have your banner that's up, so please let our audience know how they can reach out to you, how they can purchase the book box, how they can purchase the book, and if they want to be on your show, what they need to do.
Sure. So all of my books, including the one that I read from, Goodbye Too Soon, they're all on Amazon. You can reach me at my website, rbwriting.ca. On Facebook, rbwriting, on Instagram and TikTok at Randi-Lee Bowslaugh. And for the book boxes, you can order those on my website at rbwriting.ca.
Fantastic. Thank you again for being here, Randi-Lee.
Yes, thank you so much.
We wish
You're welcome.
you
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We hope to see you again.
I think so.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I just love when she comes to our platform, and it's the journey she's been on is incredible. And to hear what she's been through and how she's able to channel that in a positive way, not only to help herself and her family, but to help strangers all over the world.
Yeah, sometimes we don't understand why we're going through what we're going through, but then something beautiful comes up out of it, and you're like, now I understand because I'm helping people because of my journey. And I think that's so beautiful when we can realize the positive side of what was a very difficult journey. Don't you think, Dr. Jacalyn?
I do. And one of our friends and team members here, Philip Sykes, he always says, instead of asking why me, why not me? I'm here for a reason to help inspire my journey. Hopefully we'll help one person come forward and share theirs.
That's powerful. I'm going to have to remember that. Why not me? Exactly. Yes.
DIANN, I know that you are jetting off somewhere else right away. So I want to spotlight you. How can people reach out to you and how can they purchase your books?
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. So everyone, first I want to say thank you for listening and being part of our show. Without you, we would have nothing. So thank you so much. You can find everything about me at my website, DIANNFLOYDBOEHM. All my social media is there, so you don't have to memorize 100 things. Just go to DIANNFLOYDBOEHM.com. Be sure to sign up for my newsletter, and that way you'll always know what is going on.
Thanks, DIANN, and we wish you a safe flight and hope to see you tomorrow for the United Kingdom News and Culture.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Okay. Bye for now, Diane.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Our next show is coming right up. It's Your Story, Your Grief, Your Journey, starring Doug Lawrence, followed by Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. We have 2 new shows that will be starting very soon. The first is The Women of Africa, and that's going to be hosted by Janetta Barry. She is in Kenya, and we are lining up people as we speak to join us on that. The second show is about veterans and how veterans can help other veterans get into the workforce, and that will be hosted by Mr. Red O'Laughlin. So we continue to grow. Go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com or usaglobaltvandradio.com to book your session. We'll have 39, soon 40 shows. There's another one coming, which I'll keep to myself for the moment. So thanks again. We'll be right back with our next show. Bye.